that they might not take the AICP is because they're scared, right? I think that you guys have, by going to school, a lot of these things that you're learning, obviously you also have to study for the exam. So it's like any exam, you have to get the, if you're doing the GRE, it's always good you study for that, right? So it always helps dedicating a few months to studying, but you have like the basics to be able to take the exam. And some of my students that are here for now the second year, they actually did like in the planning history and theory a lot that was towards doing the exam. And I hope that again in our program, we can do that better and better. But one of the barriers that sometimes I encounter is that people, well, sometimes it's monetary, right? It costs $305 for you to take the exam. And I know that as students, sometimes it is hard. At the same time, many of you might know from data from the salary survey that it was like published in this year in 2025. And then that data show that you actually earn more money. And on average, you earn $30,000 more if you're IACP. But if you're starting, because a lot of you that are here are thinking more of like, you would be like a junior planner, right? So maybe people start at planner 1. So you might start at planner 2, but like Taylor, right? There's always the rock stars, right? That start in planner 2. But the point being is that it would be like probably from when you see the salary survey, you have like 0 to 5 years. The difference is $10,000. So out of the bat, if you get in school or you like, if you're in school, you can take the exam and become a candidate, right? And then you still need to complete your 2 years of like experience. And many of you already might have come with experience with you can put that and submit your credentials, right? But as you know, the exam there's the exam is $305, and then you put your credentials is another $305, and you do that with 2 years of experience, which some of you might be able to do it at once you're like planners, but some of you might have to wait until those 2 years because you took it as a student and maybe you didn't have previous work experience. You can, as many times I have said, if your internship, if you put extra hours and they were not for credit, you can count that towards your experience. So some of you might even graduate and have about 1 year of experience if you were working for something that it wasn't projects, including working for Texas Starting Communities or other kind of work that is applied. So, with that, just kind of like setting up, again, just a little bit of inspiration that the exam is about kind of in a way demonstrating, planning. In another way, it's like I am committed to the ethics because there's an AICP code of ethics and you have to abide by it by just taking the exam. It's like a commitment that you're making. It's a commitment towards like continuing education because you still need to get your credits, right? And to grow and to like be better. And it helps you with like leadership. It has a lot of like questions about leadership and management. A lot of the people like you get promoted into work, right? Not because you always got your master's, which obviously helps with promotion, but also like having ACP extra micro credentials might help you with that. And we already talked about the money part. So with that like setup, I just wanted to start with like a brief introduction of each speaker. And then so the first thing is gonna be just to introduce yourself. So like your name, where you're practicing. Oh, sorry. Just like where your name, like where do you work right now or go to school? And also like a little bit about when you took the exam, where you are practicing planner or a student while you were taking it, and why you decide to take the exam. So it's like, it's just more, keep it a little bit short, because then we can keep adding the other questions, but this is like just the first one. I will add this on the chat right here. So basically, again, your name, where you go to school, where do you go, and these are the questions that I posted in there. I hope that that's clear. But then let's start. How about let's start with like, I'll start with whoever comes here first, which is Eunice.
Oh, hello, everybody. I am Eunice Amissah-Mensah. So I was a practicing planner. So I had started the job. I was in the job for a year and a few months when I decided to take the AICP exam.
Yeah, thank you so much. And then let's go with like Simon. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, I'm Simon Donkoh, and I currently work as a planner with Fisher Associates here in Rochester, New York. And I took the exam when I was also practicing. I think I had done about 8, 9 months when I did it.
Right. Excellent. And then I guess that you needed to also answer the question of why you decided to take the exam. I'm sorry if like.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
For me, it was more about the credibility, because if you are certified, then usually when we are applying for projects, and almost, I think it's just 2 planners who are not certified. Almost everybody is AICP, so you don't want to be left out. So it was more of being among the certified planners, and then also getting to get access to all these other resources. And then especially when we attended all the conferences, and then people are signing for credits. I'm like, I'm attending these conferences, but I'm wasting all this credits. So might as well just get it in so I can get all these extra credits. So yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And then Eunice, let's go back to you, because I don't think you answered like why you decided to take the exam.
Yes. So I work for the city of Rock Island in Illinois. I took the exam again. It was part of the planning profession. It just shows that you are dedicated to the work, you're dedicated to the process. Everyone in my office, we have a few planners in the office, and we all took the exam basically within the same cycle. And it was just to stand out. If you also have consultants coming in, it's also to basically say, we are also dedicated to the work in as much as you are dedicated to the work, and that our experience do tally. So that was also one of the many reasons for taking the exam. And to do it quickly, right after school, there was a thing that was refreshing your mind as well. So that was also an incentive for that, for taking the exam quickly. Right after school, you used to have some of those experiences. You still remember most of your core subjects.
Yeah.
So it's easier for you to get the exam taken care of sooner rather than later.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Eunice. And then right now, about 40% of planners have AICP. So I wanted to say that because you alluded at like that, kind of like your interest in being part of like that group of planners that are getting AICP. So let's go with Taylor.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Taylor Cooleen. I am a senior transit planner at the city of Raleigh, North Carolina. I took my AICP in May, so about 10 months after starting my job at the city, and about a year after graduating. I tried to start taking it like earlier, but there was some like HR paperwork that got delayed, so I took it the next section. But yeah. And I wanted to take the exam. I don't know, I kind of just already wanted to take it in the master's program. So I was like, let me take it as soon as I can when I get out so that I can work on it. But yeah,
All right.
And the conferences thing too, that's definitely a thing.
Yeah, very good. And I wanted to say something that Taylor mentioned, that so they have like right now 2 cycles that you can take the exam. And then right now it is closed. It closed like October 29 to be able to register, but people will be able to take the exam. And I know some of you that are taking the exam on November 3rd to the end of November. If you, for some reason, cannot take it, like something like there's some issues, you can contact them and then you can take it in the next period, but you have to pay something. And I cannot recall how much it is. It's like $100 or $150 or something like that. Just check out in the website because, you know, things happen. Let's go with Corry.
Howdy, y'all. My name is Corry McClellan. I am a long-range senior planner at LJA, so private consulting firm. I took the exam, back in 2017 at this point. So it was a little bit different when I took it. They didn't have the candidate program, so you had to do your 2 years of experience before you could even register to take the exam. By that point, I had already been working with a consulting firm for 2 years, and I knew that I wanted to be a planner for my career. So why not take the AICP exam at that point? Also, as a long range planner, there's a lot of material that is kind of covered, that's innately going to be covered in the exam. And so it was like probably less studying than some people might have to go through. So, we at the company I worked for and the company I'm at now, you cannot become a project manager in the planning department without having AICP.
Yeah, it's like very key for many organizations in leadership position, especially in the consulting firm. So I would say it might be a little different working in government. But thank you so much, Corry, for that introduction. And then Sandra, you joined a little bit late, but this is what we're doing. We're introducing yourselves, right? So your name, you can tell us like where do you work right now, and then you can tell us if you were a practicing planner or a student when you took the exam, and why you decided to take the exam. And I will put that question on the chat.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry I was late. I had another meeting. So my name is Sandra. I am the Transit Operations Planner for Rochester Public Transit in Rochester, Minnesota. I was a practicing planner in another firm when I took the exam. I was in private consulting when I took the exam, and I took it a year into my job. And why I decided to take the exam, so in consulting, usually when you are responding to an RFP to be able to be the consultant on a project, you have to submit your list of project team members. And it's pretty nice to have your name and have the AICP beside your name, just to show your commitment to the job and the fact that you have enough knowledge to be able to be part of a project team. So that was my main motivation for taking the exam. Also, at that point, I was considering changing roles, like finding a new job. And I thought being AICP would give me a higher chance at the bigger role or a better role than what I was in previously. So those are my two main reasons for taking the exam.
All right. Well, thank you. Well, for those of you that are students, you already heard like many of the reasons of taking the AICP. Shows like, again, like commitment to the profession. It like in terms of like you have like continuing education that further like show that, but also it helps you to get promoted at work, be in leadership positions. We especially talked about how this is very important also if you're working for consulting firms, but also like even for like competitions in terms of like grants of RFPs, these might be like extra qualifications, right? That it can help you as well. So I kind of like in a nutshell, I think that summarize like many of the sentiments of like everyone here. And as I'm hearing, everybody did take it as like, not as a student, but you take it once you were in the profession, like a few years in, because the material was fresh in your head. So that's like one reason. But then also before we didn't have this program, which is like the AICP candidate. And now that again, your material is like fresh in your head, you can actually take the exam now and get the experience later. So now I'm gonna like move on to the second question. And the second question is like, how did you prepare for the AICP exam while balancing school, work, and life? And how long did it take you to study? I'll go in the same order that I see the squares. So Eunice, you're still first.
How did I prepare for the exam? So I was fortunate. In the beginning, I spoke to a lady who was a TA, my TA previously, and she provided me with some resources. So she made notes, notes she took from taking other classes. I also joined the APA. I believe there was a Florida session. Sandra recommended that to me. Sandra took the exam before I did. So she recommended that to me. So I joined the classes. It was Thursdays after work. So I had to get off work and then sit immediately through that class. There was also the weekend times, 9 a.m. in the morning, just go through a few questions and just go through the notes. The notes were subject based. And at a later time, thankfully, I also saw your urban planning foundations. So it had the scripts, they had the Quizlets, flashcards, all that, and that was, in all honesty, that was the one that I stuck to for the most part at the later time. The plan was to spend 3 months studying, but sometimes we can procrastinate a bit. So I spent I spent a month, I would say, properly preparing. I took time off of work during the week of the exam to just put the final touches on that. So those were the resources I used. Work it can get difficult. Work 8 to 5. You come back, it's exhausting. The time during the week or find the time during the day to do anything other than studying can be tedious. But I'll say sitting through those sessions for the APA, I believe Florida chapter, was taking us through that. Even just sitting through some of those sessions would be helpful. Your brain is able to pick up a few things and along the way. So I would usually recommend that. You might be exhausted, but just sit through that to get something out of it.
Yeah, and would you estimate like how many hours might have taken?
Hours. So it's usually a 3-hour session. 3-hour sessions for most of those periods. So Thursday 3 hours, so from year 5 to 8 p.m. you sit through that. Saturday mornings are also the same. You're there from like 9 a.m. to 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. was the period. But for my personal study, when I was taking the time off and when I actually sat down to study, it was also still the estimated 3 hours where those are the hours my brain could take in a day outside of work. So 3 hours is a good time to set for that. It's like prep time.
Yeah, and just to like let you know, like of what I have heard, maybe there might be people that study 40 hours, or other ones might have studied like 150 hours, right? So it kind of like very big range.
I've not computed that, but if it's 3 months every Thursday, 3 hours every Thursday, in 3 months we have about how many? 4 Thursdays. So 3 times 4 would give me 12 hours in a month. And if it's 3 months, 12 hours in a month, we'll have like 36 hours in the 3 months. And then taking the Saturdays as well, 36 close. So that would give me 72 hours plus the extra hours of extra 3 hours on there, which close to 100 hours. I think you have to invest at least 100 hours.
Yeah, you have to invest. All right. Thank you so much. And then I wanted to say from Eunice, like I had like that that's the site that she was talking about. So it's like Urban Planning Foundations, and later on I might show it, but you can explore it. So it's like there's a podcast, there's like some questions in there and exams. Also the other thing that Eunice was like talking about, the Florida chapter. There's like 2 people there, Henry and Suzanne. They're like retired planners that dedicate 40 hours each, so full time working on this, and then they're giving on Saturdays it's like 3 hours for their and also on Thursdays, that's what she was saying, about 3 hours as well. So they give like 6 hours of free training. But if you're going to use that, you need to do it soon, because like they're retiring. They have announced that they're completely retiring. I don't know what will happen to that free resource. So let's go now with Simon.
Alrighty, so how I did prepare for the exam. I mean, I also use the same resources that Eunice used. I couldn't get a chance to join the live sessions for the Florida APA sections, but I did have access to the recorded videos. So I watched some of the videos. It was just too long to sit through it after that. So I would just skim through some of them, and most of the areas that I thought I needed more understanding in some of the areas, like the ethics sections, I thought they did pretty good with explaining the reasoning behind what the right answer was. And so those sections were very helpful. And then I tried my best to go through all the practice questions that they provided, and those videos were very helpful. But general learning, I think I woke up every 4 a.m., studied till about 6:30, and then just went through the various models. I had a plan and divided. I used 2 months, to prepare. And so I broke everything up into the various difficulties, the various volumes of things that I had to study within the 2 months, and I tried to check off the boxes as I went along. I also used your podcast and then the other resources. I found it a little bit late, but they were very helpful. But in my free time, I saw myself scrolling too much on Instagram, too much on Snapchat, too much on LinkedIn, unaware. Like, I don't know, I'll just pick my phone, and before I realize, I won't even think about it, but I'll be on Instagram. So to help me, I uninstalled all those apps. I uninstalled LinkedIn, Instagram, Snapchat. I didn't delete the account, but I uninstalled it from my phone. I rather installed Quizlet and had those flashcards. And so whenever I picked my phone, because I had gotten sort of addicted to picking my phone and just seeing what is on the feed and everything. But then when I picked my phone, oh, there's no LinkedIn, there's no Instagram. But what was there was Quizlet. So I'll go in and just flip through some of these things. So these were unofficial times, like when I'm eating or when I'm doing anything and pressing my phone, instead of just scrolling through social media, I'll just scroll through some of these Quizlet questions, and that was very, very helpful. I also used the unofficial AICP guys podcast. That was also very good when I'm walking to work, when I'm at the gym, when I'm just relaxing. And the way he does the podcast doesn't make it too academic, makes it very conversational, very storytelling. And so that was really helpful for me as well. And then yeah, so those were some of the resources that I used and how I balanced work with it.
Yeah, excellent. And it's in Spotify. There might be like several podcasts. This one is really good. I listened to the whole thing, as well. And so there's no excuse to be studying, while you're commuting and all that. And in the Quizlets, there's like tons and tons of things in Quizlets. I see that, Corry, you put like here some also study stack. I don't think that that's like Quizlet, but it's like similar. You go through flashcards or like multiple choice questions, and there's many free ones. So let's now go with like Taylor.
Yeah, hello. So in my kind of studying for the exam, I'd probably started actually like around, I'm trying to remember when the first, is it September is the first registration window for the November test? So I probably started trying to study around
Yeah.
then, but then realized that I wasn't actually going to be getting to take it. So then I kind of delayed it for a while. I think I only started studying seriously, really, probably the first like 2 months before like the exam, but like seriously, like looking at stuff and like reviewing things when I had some time during work. I did also kind of talk to the NC APA chapter, their vice president for professional development. I work with him on some projects. So I actually asked him for any like materials that he has, and he sent me over some practice tests and the exam answers for that. So I just took those and would check the answers versus what I thought. And then me and some of my coworkers, I had like did a little study group with a few of my coworkers since one of them was thinking about taking the exam and another one was taking it the same period as I was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did use the Planning Foundation's website. I did also like look and basically combine all of the things that I could find on the APA website where they're talking directly about like what things they're asking about. And I think the biggest one was that I went through all the law cases that were linked in any like APA legislation thing and basically like went through all them, learned about them, tried to write what like the shortest kind of description of them as I could for each of them, and then also connect them to whatever topics they're connected to.
Yeah.
So that was probably the most time that I spent was like retyping a bunch of things in to kind of connect it to it. But that I think helped a lot. And then just like random quizzes and stuff when I had extra time. So
Yeah. Excellent. Very good. How about you, Corry?
So I did one thing that was really smart and one thing that was really not smart. I'll detail that. Once I established that, or once I graduated, I knew I was going to have to work for 2 years. So the first thing I did, basically, as soon as I graduated, was actually just review the topic areas of the exam just to get an idea of what was even going to be on it, what would I need to know. And then I started trying to put things into buckets, like what have I already learned and I don't need to worry about that, or what will I likely get exposed to on the job? Don't need to worry about that. What am I naturally interested in? Don't need to worry about that. And so I knew as I was working, these are the areas where I'm not as strong, or I'm not a transportation planner. So maybe I need to work on that, or I don't have a real estate background. Maybe I need to focus on that stuff. So for 2 years, always had in the back of my mind, what were the areas like, if I'm going in and meeting with a client and I hear something, I already know, okay, that's going to be kind of key. Let me make a mental note of that. Or, what do I need to kind of try to seek out on my own? Then the not smart thing I did was I did not prep anymore until the long weekend before I took the exam. Don't do that.
Okay.
I spent, I think, a total of 20 hours, if that, studying. It was full panic. There were some tears involved. But my employer was really good about every time people took the exam, we all, the employer would pay for different resources, but their expectation was that then all of those resources would go into a pool that everyone would have access to. So if you took a paid class, if you had a tutor, you were expected to provide all of that material since it had been paid for. So even though I did not start studying until a Friday afternoon with the exam the following Tuesday, I knew I had everything in my arsenal that I was going to need. And for like 3 straight days, all I did was study. Obviously flashcards were huge. I think the first thing I did that Friday was I took a practice exam just to figure out, like, if I didn't study at all, where am I right at this moment in time? And then I was like, oh, I'm actually not as far off score wise as I thought I was. I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna pass, but I'm not gonna get a 0. So then it was like, what incrementally, I'll put it this way. If you're just trying to be strategic about it, you don't need to learn everything on the exam. A passing score is not 75%. So if you need X score, I don't even know what it is now. If you need a 65 to pass, what is that equivalent of the
it's still
material?
75.
And rather than trying to be an expert in everything or know a lot about everything, you can just know a ton about a few categories. Like you don't have to get a passing score in every category. You just need a passing score overall, or at least you did. So I was a little bit more strategic about it. That's not necessarily how they intend for you to take the exam, but it can be done.
Yeah, thank you so much. And then Corry, you were talking about this, which is like the outline. So basically they have like all the things that you should be learning. And then there's a little buckets of what is each category as well. So again, you could concentrate on some to do very well of those, or you can say, okay, I already know a lot about planning history and theory or about community engagement, but I need to study more on law. So you can decide on what to do. And there's a lot of quizzes out there that it can help you to figure this out, including in the one that I created. Alaya just added some quizzes that are by the different topics, so you could see where you're at. The passing score is still 75. So all of us in the school here at Texas A&M, if you went to Texas A&M, we get your scores. If you did very poorly in ethics, we'll be like, oh my God, we need to change our classes and we need to do better in that or in research methods 1 or 2, whatever that might be. Okay, so Sandra.
So most of the okay, I'll start with how I prepared for the exam. So I took my exam in November, towards the end of November, and I started studying sometime in August. So August, September, October were for studying, but I got really serious once I registered for the exam in October. Then I realized, okay, I'm really in this. So in October, I think every day I was committing about 2 hours towards the exam, but between August and September, it was only on Saturdays. So on Saturdays, I could spend 5 to 6 hours studying. And similar to what Eunice did, I also used Henry's resources, Henry from APA Florida, but I didn't watch the live sessions. I just went back to replay. I just wanted to do it at my own pace. So I just went back to replay. And if I watch after an hour and I'm tired, I'll just stop, do something else and come back to it. So that was one of my really good resources that helped me pass this exam. Secondly, I took the Panelists AICP prep course that you would have to pay for. I think it's about $300. So what helped there is they have like 6 full-length practice exams, which are timed just as the real exam is timed. So I had a steady plan, and maybe after every 3 weeks, I go take one practice exam to see how I'm doing, just to reassess where my weakest areas were and where I needed to study more. So Henry's resources really helped, and then the Panelists prep course, the full-length exams also helped me to gauge how well I was doing and what my score could have been in the exam. So
excellent. Yeah. So something about like Henry's courses. I mean, we posted a link here already. But I think that Simon might mention this as well, that you got into the list, but then he posts everything online, so you could go and find it on your own. And then, exams and all that, you don't have to sit through the 6 hours every time. So again, you can pick and choose. Although obviously, like Eunice, you found that like very helpful as well. So it's kind of like people can ask questions, and it's amazing what he does, like for like free lessons, right? We all become like more well-rounded planners. All right, so I'm gonna like transition to the next question. I think I'm gonna skip one of the questions and then just go to like what surprised you the most about the exam itself. So obviously you all study, you have all these materials, and then you get to the exam, and then what were those things that you were like, oh, I wish I knew that that there was more about this, or I wasn't expecting that. So it's kind of more about any surprises that you might have about the exam. And then instead of like me saying who will speak next. Anyone can go ahead.
I've got.
Okay.
Go ahead, Eunice.
Okay. So for me, the minute I sat behind the exam and I got the first 2 to 3 questions, what stood out for me was you have to, in a way, if you're a practicing planner in general planning, what you deal with day to day would really help you out, get the exam taken care of. It's the logical process, it's the thinking process. It's not just the memorization part of things. You have to be able to put yourself in those scenario situations or play it out in your mind, just as you write a report, just as you're writing a grant. If you have an RFP to put out, what is your scope? Like, you have to think through what a planner would do on a day-to-day basis. So I just went after the first 5 questions. I would say it was just put your planning hat on and then think through the questions. Became a thing. It was hard to distinguish between what questions might fall. Ethics might be a little easier to identify, but it was hard to just distinguish between what might fall under transportation or neighborhood planning, or most of your law questions can fall under ethics and law. So those distinctions were not in there as much as you expect. And yeah, it was just put your planning hat on as much as you can, and whatever it is you do on the field, whatever it is you do on your day-to-day would actually play into you getting the exam.
Right, excellent. Well, before Corry, I just wanted to say what Eunice. So put your hat on, but put your national hat on. I think that part of it is like the exam is thinking about how a planner thinks, right? Not specifically to your own community, which many times it might be very different. So we just take that into account. But yes, absolutely great advice. Corry.
Yep, that was going to be one of mine. Was when you realize that the exam is geared towards the least common denominator in planning, like the correct answer is in theory a nationwide correct answer. So if you are a Texas planner, we deal with some special crap here and it doesn't apply. And if you can sort of take that away, the exam gets a lot easier. What I'll follow along with that is, because of the limited time that I gave myself to study, I was using a lot of very basic tools like anagrams when I was doing flashcards. So, just bare minimum, like Jane Jacobs, Life and Death of Great American Cities, Arnstein, Ladder of Participation. Like the questions are so rapid fire and so broad that it really doesn't get a lot deeper than that. And if you can just kind of remember A goes to B, C goes to D, it's really like you can just kind of, what's the one word in the question, and you pretty much know the one word answer that you're looking for. And you can probably get through the exam in like half the time if you go through it with that approach. And that's what really surprised me.
Yeah, thank you.
I can mention some too. So I totally agree with you, Corry, on all of that. The whole just like connecting them, and then also when I was taking it, at least, I also kind of like flagged questions as I went through. I tried to go through all the questions right away and then flag the ones that I was unsure about. But what surprised me, I think a mix of my materials, since I was in the like first or second group of people with the new AICP test, there wasn't a lot of materials that were for like the newer version, and the ones that were there were like a little bit easier than the actual test, and then the ones that were from the previous test were a lot harder. So I was taking 2 different kind of groups of questions and exam things, like smushing them together. And for the most part, thankfully, studying with the really like hard questions helped a good chunk, but there were definitely still some like newer questions that were specific that I don't know, that they were kind of like a bit harder on the whole scheme of things, or it was like asking just really specific questions about like a percentage or something like that, where those I feel like you kind of have to just know them or not. And if you don't know it, it's, it's just, that's how it is.
Yeah. So what
Yeah.
what you're saying, Taylor, is like the exam changed and used to be a lot more about memorization, right? And then now there's like a little bit more of like, I guess, like critical thinking or maybe a little bit more kind of like your planner hats kind of again, just like to use that critical thinking. um so the unfortunately, like the APA doesn't have exam out there, with the exception of those, like there's one that is like 40 something questions, 47 questions, whatever that might be, and that one is kind of harder, right, than all the, like, again, planetism is good. Like the ones that I made are, the pass rate is a little bit higher than the actual exam. I'm not sure about the planetism, but that's like something to take into consideration. So what I would say about that is like using different sources are good. Obviously, those things are a little bit about more memorization, are things that you should know and learn. So you can do that, but then there's another level. And the idea is like how you might get to that other level, because in a way you do have to know a lot of like just, these things that you might need to memorize in a way. Okay, so then anyone else that wants to
Yeah.
contribute? Yes.
So when I first wrote the exams, I failed by 2 points. And that was because I relied too much on the wrong resources. The first time I wrote it, I relied too much on this planning prep trial questions. And most of them, I think, were based on the previous style. So those
Correct.
were knowledge-based. What is this? What is that? When did this happen? And so I studied too much on what is this? What is that? When did this happen? Who did this? Who did? And so I was killing it. I thought I was, oh my God, I'm prepared for it. I went through the exam, and then as soon as I started, maybe first 20 questions were all scenario-based questions. Like, you are a planner for this town, you did this, what would it? So now that caught me by surprise. So I had to take time because I started panicking a little bit, because I had to relax, take time and read, get all the details. And so I spent too much time trying to dissect all these scenarios, because it was a little bit new to me, because I was only solving questions that were, what is this, what is that? And so before I realized, I had 1 hour and I had not even finished half of the questions. And so I had to rush through the rest. And so I failed by 2 points for the first time. So going back for the second round, now I registered for the planetism course, not for the content because I already had that, but for the trial exams, because those were very scenario based, just like you see it in the exams. And so that is one area that I will encourage anybody to focus on, the scenario based part, because if you are not used to doing tests that are very scenario practical, uh, critical thinking, like everybody is saying, then you'll be like me. You will have to spend a lot of time try to read a question, now try to see, okay, what is this really talking about? Is it about this or about that? Because I had the knowledge, because I knew what is this, what is that. But now, which of these do I need to apply in this question? Is what took too much of my time to really understand, and that wasted too much time. So the planetism exam is, I think, the closest in terms of scenario practical based questions.
Well, thank you, Simon. And then Sandra, you have any additions?
Yeah, I'll just add to what Simon said by saying that time management is really key in this exam. Some of the questions are very long,
Yeah.
and if you have to read it 2 or 3 times to understand, I would just go ahead and flag it and just move on to another question. Because if I read it the first time, the second, and I'm not able to answer, I think it's going to waste my time. And the exam has an option to flag a question and come back to it. So my strategy was first to skim through and answer the ones I could answer quickly, and then flag the ones I couldn't and go back to spend my time to understand and answer those. So again, time management was critical for me, and that surprised me on how long some of the questions were and how much time it took to try and understand and answer those.
Yeah, excellent. So instead of me asking more questions, they have like 10 minutes, around 10 minutes. So let's like see if like anyone has questions.
I have a couple.
Yeah.
What percentage of the questions are situational and what percentage are just multiple, or what percentage are situational and what are just facts like dates and that sort of thing?
I don't think that they put that out in terms of what is the percentage.
Okay. Do any of the people that took the exam recently have an idea on that?
It almost feels like you'd have like 90% situational.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of that sounds right to me too, like a 80 or 90%.
It's
okay.
I think it's more that they fall, like the situational questions fall into a certain bucket. If you look at the subject matter on the APA website, like communication and interaction, that's probably going to be one section, and that's one of 9 topic areas. That's probably going to be one topic area that's going to be a little bit more situational, like communication, how are you, and interaction, how, not just with the city or not just with the community, but also with your team if you're managing a planning department. But communication interaction is only 13% of the exam overall, and those situational questions are only going to be a fraction of that category. I don't know if that helps at all.
And I think that you know, as I also took it like recently, and I would not say that it was that high. Maybe feels that high because it's you're reading a lot and it's like it takes a lot of energy on that. But I do have to agree with Corry that some of the topics are non-situational, like the areas of practice. Those tends to not. It's more about. I had like 3 questions this last cycle, because like professors can take it for free just to see how it's exam. There were 3 questions about capital improvements programs, and it's like it's kind of a lot, but none of them were situational. They were more like this is knowledge that you should have. So I don't know, like you know, I have also like I know the exam is different, but I will say is they have like a big pool, and I don't think I will be as clear as Scott as saying like, you know, this percentage are going to be a scenario or not. I think it's just more depending on the type, as like Corry was saying, but I it's just kind of also how you clarify how you decide that something is a scenario, because many of these things you might have to read, but it's really a knowledge question. Does that make sense? So yes. Sometimes I see that in the exam as well. That is something that if you know it, then you're not really applying it, but it's definitely a lot more in terms of like how would you proceed towards doing something. And there's several answers that are correct. So sometimes you have to choose like the best answer, really.
If Robert, one example that I remember from the exam, actually, I don't know if I'm supposed to give very specific examples, but it's been so long, I'm going to do it anyway. It was like, imagine you're a planning director and you're preparing the budget for the next year. If your objective is this, which budget type would you put forward? And that's not really, it seems scenario based, but it's actually just knowing what the 3 types of budgets are and which one would apply in that situation.
Okay. Thank you. Do you, on the situational questions, do you type out an answer, or is it multiple choice?
Yeah, all of it is multiple choice.
Okay.
Any other questions? I see a hand. Go ahead. I said Sukanya.
Hi. Yes. Firstly, thank you so much for doing this. This resource is very helpful. My question was about, I've been a regional planner throughout like 6 years now. Haven't worked at the municipal scale before. And so I sometimes worry about some of the questions, especially like scenario-based, that come in where I've practiced ethics questions as well. And those can be tricky too. So I was just curious if you have any guidance or suggestions on if folks who are just like more on the regional side, we end up being consultants to municipalities, but not necessarily in the thick of municipal planning. So if any suggestions around how, which topics to focus on, or just generally any guidance. I know it's a little bit specific.
Yeah, I mean, like, I could let other people answer, but I said, like, I don't think that you have to worry about that. I think that you just have to just like do a exam, and then usually in those exams you see like the areas that you might have been doing better or worse, right? And then or that you can take free quizzes and see which ones are you doing, and then that's something I think that I would not pinpoint to, because I work on regional planning. I might do like, it's just sometimes it's about you're interested in something, and you are better at that, and that's what it is. So I would just concentrate on like just doing a self-assessment and then just going from there.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, when I was taking mine, I feel like there's some question where you're like, oh, this fits more with this type of planning, and this fits more with this type of planning. And as we were saying earlier, like, if you can learn the big chunk of it and have that, there's obviously going to be specific areas that are that you have less strength in, is probably the best way to say it. But, and then some that you have more strength in. So it's like kind of balances it out usually anyway. And a lot of the stuff is pretty overall, like regional or for the whole US, or just kind of general planning things. So.
Yeah, and I see some questions here on the chat. So there was a question about the code of ethics, right? And then this is something that you basically should memorize. It's one of the most important things. And I believe that the percentage, I don't remember if it's 5 or 10%, but it's pretty good. So if you memorize it and it's only like maybe 8 pages or something like that, just memorize it. What are the sessions? What it says is super important, as like other ones have explained in there. And then there was a question about ethic cases. I don't think, the APA is a slow moving organization. They might, they have a group of people that make questions for these, and they meet, and then they test the questions, and then they take a while to be there. It's going to be years for like the 2025 cases to be in there. So I would say at least 3 years of like for them to implement anything new really in the exam.
The AICP case of the year, or the ethics case of the year, is often the most nuanced situation that happened once and will never, ever, ever happen again to anybody ever. And it's important to know so that you don't find yourself in some sort of similar situation. But when it comes down to ethics, if you understand why the ethics rules are there to begin with, that's probably good enough. I don't think you need to know like ethics, code of ethics, line item 1, paragraph 2. But if you generally understand what is good planning, what is bad planning, and why, that's really what they're getting at.
Yeah, I agree with that on the ethics thing too. Just knowing the like 2 sections of it too, that there's like the code of ethics and conduct, like what is actually like an ethics violation kind of thing, and then which are the things that we aspire to be and what we should do in circumstances when we can, but aren't like, profession breaking ones. I have the code of ethics printed actually on my like cubicle, like printed and kind of put up, but that's just so I can like reference. It has the short versions of each of them, so that might be helpful actually to like use as a way to kind of boil it down, because it is a really long document. And I think ethics is really important, but it is definitely thinking about like, why is it this and why is it not this, and that kind of thing.
I think at some point you realize it gets to the social, human, moral aspect of things. So naturally, what are you as a human being inclined to do? I think that's what planners bring to our field, is just we humanize everything. If I put someone in this situation, what is the long-term effect it's going to have mentally, psychologically, any type of thing. So I think ethics is more a moral thing as well. So it's a social moral thing. Don't do unto others what you want to be done to you type of situation. So that's how I read it as. So going into it with the ethics cases, it's not always, again, no memorization, no word for word thing. It's just put yourself in those situations as well.
Yeah.
And then we have like a question from Laramie, which is like, all of you took the exam after you were practicing planners. So I might change a little bit her question. So saying like, what would you recommend for students that are then considering taking the exam as students?
I'll go first because I'm going to hop off in a minute. I have another meeting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I took them working as a planner because I think it's helpful to both have your employers like back up from you, kind of like they pay for it and they'll help pay for any like additional courses. And sometimes you might have people that are like at the same level as you in the profession in your office that might want to take the exam as well. So if you all kind of talk and you can study together, and just having like a good coalition of like people, like I talked about that I was like taking the exam for a couple months prior. So several people who had taken it or were taking it were telling me that I have this kind of study materials if you want to like work together on this thing, or if you want to do this or this. So that was really helpful, I think. And kind of just focusing on the actual planning profession, like it's a very experience-based thing. So yeah.
Excellent.
And mainly it's that they pay for it. That's probably the biggest one, honestly.
Yeah, that for sure helps. So I think we are gonna like end here because it's like 1 p.m. But I wanted to thank all of the speakers, Eunice and Simon and Taylor, Corry and Sandra, for spending time with us and for encouraging all of the students and other also practicing planners to take the IICP. So thank you very much.